All right. All right, all right. Thank you, Wise Choice Money. All right.
Want to give it a few before we jump into it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. How has your day been so far, Moongod?
Not bad. Can't complain. Just stuff at work burning to the ground constantly. It feels like. But I mean, I wouldn't have a job if that wasn't happening, so I can't complain.
Oh, geez. Sounds like a high stress job a little bit. But I guess
Nah, not really.
no.
Fortunately for me, I get to kind of work as the middleman, so I don't have to worry about it too much. I'm kind of like in between the people that call in with issues and our developers. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of like the triage support person.
Yeah. I got you.
Fun part is I literally get to just basically sit there, stare at a screen, and be like, "Oh yeah, man, stuff's going sideways. All right, developers, let's see what we can do. This is it's what our guys are experiencing. Blah 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 blah. How do we fix it? Oh, can we do this? Can we do that? So it's not bad.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Man, we got 15 people. All right. It's a pretty good little crowd. Cool. Let me see.
I mean, I'll just say you definitely sound much more clear with the headset on than you did in prior weeks.
Cool. Thank you. That
Yeah, you're
is
welcome.
that is good. Go ahead and turn my camera on. That light is a little blinding back there, but then I'll just put my head in the way. What's up, Gunther? All right. What's up, Biz? Captain Crunch, Chappie, Yanni, Naroff, Gale, Abil, Jam Jeep, Mystic Dragon, Blacksmith, Timber Sky, Wise Choice Money, Irish Viking. Awesome. Thank you very much. And hopefully the recording shouldn't have any feedback. I mean, it might have a tiny bit because, like, literally, I know people say literally too much, but the sound from the headset actually is picked up by this mic just a wee bit. So there's a tiny bit of feedback, but not much at all. So it's the best I can do. That's until I learn how to use Streamlabs. So I think we can jump right into it. I think we got a pretty good audience now, and
Yeah, and I know it's not meant to be like a 2 hour long, session or talk or whatever it is. So yeah, we can jump into it real quick, and then anyone that obviously wants to ask some questions, you can definitely throw them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them in the one stage chat. And to anyone that's got questions after the fact or like was watching this on YouTube or anything like that, you can put them in the comments or you can come into the Discord and ask. But yeah, so effectively the bot is doing all right. What we're kind of looking at here is the adjustment phase that we kind of originally talked about, which is why this first 2 weeks is effectively the most important portion of it. So far, we have had to make a few changes regarding the way that the bot was trading. So just to kind of give a breakdown of the time frame, funds, kind of how it worked, everything like that. So for the first about 3 days, we originally started with $1,000, and we came to realize that it was actually missing some trades because the amount that it would have been trading was too small. So we increased that to $2,000, and that is kind of where the first portion of it picks up. Since then, we've had 4 days of downtime as well to make some small adjustments. So all in all, that was about a week of the last 2 weeks where effectively the bot really wasn't trading. So in that time frame of about 7 days, it has done 0.77%. So about 0.1% per day, with very, very low volatility in the market as of currently right now. Now, for some that might seem bad or kind of nerve wracking, or like it's lower than expected. Again, I just want to reiterate that this is 1 week of data. So it's very much so an instance where in this 1 week, it could have low volatility. It could have, low trades in terms of things like that. It could be higher the remaining 2 weeks out of, the month here. So it's nothing that we're panicking about, or, we're like all hands on deck, red flags everywhere, what's going on. I would love to be able to build everything on 1 week's worth of data and base that on how everything is going to go going forward. But that's just not the case. To give an example of that, in the month that we did the 16.7%, the bot was in a trade for 5 days. So effectively, if you looked at that 5-day period, it looked like we weren't making any trades and nothing was happening. So to really say that, hey, we're worried about this, we need to make adjustments, things like that, would be extremely egregious for us to just jump in and try to kind of make some changes and do anything like that. So far, the bot has been extremely safe. It has got a 100% win rate, I believe, over 27 trades now. So it's doing fine. The good news is, with the maintenance being completed 3 days ago, because again, that's how often we were working on this. The first 3 days it was down, and then we had 4 days after that of, intermingled maintenance that we were kind of doing after we increased the funds up to $2,000. So the last day that we did maintenance was 3 days ago. And the bot has been running flawlessly for the past 3 days, no issues. Doing
nice.
Everything that we'd want. So it's definitely a situation where, again, to just kind of look at 1 week's worth of data and say, oh God, we need to hit the panic button, would be absolutely the worst thing that we can do. We want to kind of sit on this, and again, that's why we've kind of reiterated multiple times that we were going to start putting funds in. It'll take about 6 to 8 weeks of, refining, testing, getting additional data, bringing more and more funds in, testing that process from the account to the sub account, making sure everything is working correctly, and that, we don't have something happen where it's like on the main account, it's trading, at a, like, we'll say on the main account, it trades at like a 0 time frame, which means that when it puts the trade goes through without any issue. And then on the sub account, it takes, plus 0.0510 seconds or something like that, or plus 0.10, 10 seconds, which is not where we'd want it to be. We want it to be as close to 1-to-1 as possible. Like when the main account trades, sub account trades right behind it as well too, with the same trade orders placed in at the same time frame, because we're looking for those same entry points.
Right.
And so that's a lot of stuff that we've got to kind of test on this side, make sure it runs smoothly. So again, this is going to be our first of many of these. I don't want anybody to panic and to worry and be like, oh God, it's not producing the same amount. You have to remember that when we did get the bot running the first time, when it did that 16.7%, that was after about 6 to 8 weeks of us personally testing with our own funds, prior to launching that bot up and running it with that. So, again, as I said, the reason why we transitioned is this one has a lot more viability long term, makes things a lot better for the team in terms of not having to just sit there and stare at a screen for 16 hours out of the day, and then sleep for the the remaining 8 hours and hope nothing goes sideways. So yeah, it's very much so a case where it's a change that we knew we were going to have to make, and we wanted to ensure that first and foremost, as we talked about, safety and security is number one for us, which is again why we're testing this out the way that we are, why we're slowly making adjustments. And the positive is, as we kind of get some more of this data coming back to us and we see how things kind of pan out, we can turn up that risk factor a little bit. And I say risk factor in terms of like what it can produce, but think about it on a scale of like 0 to 100. Like right now we're at a risk factor of like 0.000001 or something. We could turn that risk factor all the way up to like 0.001, and we're still going to be in an absolutely fantastic position anyways.
Right.
And that's kind of what I'd like to just reiterate here is that we've got a week's worth of data in this, and nothing is ever based on a week's worth of data. If we did that for everything, we'd be absolutely insane. The for reference in sports and stuff like that, I don't know how many people care about sports, but in the football world, you don't base everything on the first week of the NFL season, or you wouldn't base it on the first week of the soccer season or something like that. You never know what a team's going to do. They could have a bad first week, and then they could play flawlessly for the rest of the season. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the way that we think about it here. Is that we're 1 week in, you know, we're seeing how it kind of does. We're making some of those adjustments here and there, and we're kind of just refining things a little bit as we go. So, yep,
Yeah.
that's
And
kind of where we're at.
the thing is, like, we're still the bot is still going to be profitable. All the like, it's got 100% win rate so far, and with the level of risk that you guys have lowered it down to, I mean, it, goodness, it'll be very, very, very rare that it ever misses, that it ever loses. So it's like, if you invest, like, you know, just to compare it a little bit to the stock market, like if you invest in the stock market, there's going to be times when you're down tremendously, and it'll make up for it if you stay in it for a period of years. But with this, I mean, we're going to be making profit monthly, and the like what Moongod was saying about that 1 month where it did 16.7%. He was saying that, what was it, like a 5 day? Was it a 5 day period or a 7 day period where it like literally didn't make a trade? It was just waiting.
So it was a 5 day period roughly where it was like 4 days and like 8 hours or something like that, where it was stuck in
Yeah.
a trade because there was no volatility. So it
Right.
was like it was in there, it was accumulating and kind of getting more and more and more, but it was doing it in such a small level where, by the time that was all said and done, yeah, we ended up doing, I think it was like 4.8% or something like that, or like 4.9%. It was like our largest trade. But again, if you had
Yeah.
just chunked out that period of time and said, well, I mean, look at this bot for the last 4 days, it's not doing anything, it hasn't returned anything.
I,
That would
I
be like the greatest mistake that you could possibly make. So that's
when
that's why, in the position that we're kind of in here, we don't want to look at, hey, how's it doing one day? How's it doing for just 1 week? As we're starting to go through and and pull data together and get everything pulled together for you guys to be able to visually see this, and we're working on that. The website, we're hoping to have it done very, very soon here. It'll have an NFT checker associated with it. So when you connect your wallet to our website, it'll check to see if you have the NFT, and then it'll give you access to the NFT page, so you can track your data, see how everything's going, see how the bot's
cool.
producing. I believe we're also trying to set it up so it can see how many NFTs you have and what the returns are on those every single year, like at when the payout occurs, like what the return would be for those NFTs. So we're trying to do a lot of really awesome stuff with that. But
That would be
if we
cool.
were to base everything, like I said, just on like 1 week's worth of data, that would be, like that would be asinine.
Yeah.
There's not a nice way for me to kind of word that. It'd just be silly and ridiculous. Like there's no one in any form of finance statistics or anything like that that would ever base anything on a week's worth of data. It's just we can't we can't base anything going forward on that.
Yeah. And
And even
the fact that we're gonna do an AMA every week, like, sometimes there'll be weeks where it's just amazing, and then some weeks it'll be like it will have been a slow week. So and
exactly.
we'll be there to let you guys, we'll be there to talk to you about it. Moon God obviously will be the one with the more knowledge on that, and he'll be explaining it all. But that's just how the ebbs and flows of trading. It's like there are good weeks and bad weeks, but like overall, like if you back up just a little bit, like month to month, I think we're still going to be happy with the monthly returns, and the yearly returns even more so. And honestly, I think like when there's a slow week, like, doesn't that sometimes lead to like a really good few days, or like a slow week can lead to a better week?
Well, the thing that I would bring up in that instance is when we were testing our data and looking back over 3 years, we have to remember that not every day of those 3 years, or not every week of those 3 years, and sometimes not even every month of those 3 years that we were doing, that we were pulling data from, were positive. So it's very much so a case where you're 100% correct that as time goes on, you know, this is going to put us on the right side of what we're looking to kind of do here. And again, based on the historical data that we've kind of gleaned from this, our bot was doing about 7 to 12% per month without compounding over the last 3 years. So again, that's taking into account the times where Bitcoin just went on that massive crash after the USTC, and the UST and Luna, crash and falling apart.
Yeah.
FTX and all of those going bankrupt and everything that happened there. The massive volatility that we saw. Coming out of the bear market into like 2020, 2021. So it's very much so a case where even in those instances where it's not doing as much in terms of returns, long term over those 3 years, I think it went from, in our testing without compounding, it went from $10,000 to $400,000, over that 3 year time frame. And again, that is without compounding in any way, shape, or form. So, so with compounding, it's definitely going to be much higher, than that, because, again, we're compounding effectively for the first 2 years here. So
Yeah.
it's like very much so something where, the reason why we're doing these conversations, the AMAs, is that we want people to be able to come in, ask us questions, see how things are going. We want to give you guys those updates. And then, again, you guys will be able to track everything as well too. The positives and negative days, the year to date returns, everything like that through the app as well. So, yeah, it's just going to be an ongoing process where we're going to try and provide as much information, as much data, and then again keep these conversations open and available to anyone that's curious about what's going on.
Yep. And just like safety and sustainability are priority. So, because there was a question that came up, like, I don't know, a few days ago, like, are we even going to get to stage three? And it's like, with the level of risk being so absolutely low, yes, there's like no way that we do not get to stage three. Barring like an FTX event. But, Moongod even said that, he would see that coming, and they could pull those funds out of there. So,
Well, I'd like to say that we could predict the future and see that coming. I mean, we can do our best in those situations. We are looking at, like, as people have asked, diversification of those funds into other areas as well too, maybe multiple CEXs, because that also, what that does for us is it allows us to trade on a smaller amount as well. But I hate to be that guy and just say it, but like if a major CEX were to just say, "Yep, we're closing up shop," tomorrow, and not tell anyone, and then just freeze everyone's assets, I mean, everybody's going to be in a world of hurt at that point in time.
yeah.
So it's very much so a case where we are looking into those options of kind of spreading the funds out a little bit. We do want to keep at a minimum, at least with Bybit and the way that we've got our bots set up. We would end up keeping a minimum of about 50,000 because that reduces our current trading fees by about 33%, which is absolutely insane. So that would be a huge added benefit to us in the way that we're kind of placing some of these trades. So yeah, that's kind of the process that we're looking at. But as we do get bigger and as we kind of look into some of these other CEXs and the trading and the perpetual dexes, we do want to be able to expand out to them and kind of use those as a method to kind of hedge against like an FTX situation. And so I just wanted to kind of bring that up because I know that question's been asked multiple times, but I just wanted to bring that up as yes, we are definitely considering that. I can't promise a time frame on that though, because we have to make sure that the bot works, it's implemented properly. There's a lot of things that go into it, but
And
it
what's
is something where we've heard it, and we will be, hopefully making a move to that at some point.
what's the 50,000 that you were saying? Is that like later on when you've built up more money, you want to set aside 50,000 like as a rainy day fund or something? Or
No, that's the first threshold for reduction in trading fees. So on most CEXs, you either have to trade over a certain amount in a month or hold over a certain amount of assets within your account,
so the more
and
you
you get
trade,
reduced.
the less you pay in fees.
Correct. Yes, because you're trading much higher volume. Now, mind you, it's not like, oh, you traded $100,000 in the month. We're talking like, I think tier one for this is like you have to trade $10 million or something like that. So it's like
Heck,
it can be a little costly in terms of doing stuff like that in order to hit those fee structures. But that's why it's usually easier to just hold the assets. But yeah, the first one we already are going to be in that range. But if we look to split it up, we want to keep in those fee structures of the CEXs that we're a part of. We want to keep ourselves in a position where we're not going to be paying just extra fees for no reason. So that's kind of what I'm referencing. It's a little bit of a delve away from actual information that's necessary to kind of more back end stuff that we have to deal with. But
right.
sometimes I think it's, somebody might find it interesting. They'll be like, oh, that's cool. Didn't know that. So
Yeah. I was playing around with the compound interest calculator today. That was fun.
yeah,
Based
man, I'm
on
surprised you didn't know about that. Yeah.
I you know I was just looking at like the numbers you had given us and the numbers that I was seeing from like Bobtail had posted some stuff, but I didn't know which calculator they were using. So when you gave me the one, it was fun.
Yeah, I like to use that for, like if I'm doing a lot of quick and dirty math and I don't have time.
So Chappie is saying, I like what I'm hearing. Keeping your feet on the ground is key. A lot of responsibility on the team. If you lose control, it's over. Stay conservative. Stay smart. Stay strong. So, yep. You guys have any questions for Moongod? Because we'll be doing these every Tuesday at 4:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll post them on my YouTube channel afterward. But it'll just be to give you guys an update on what the bot did over the last week. And like Moongod was saying, the performance from this past week was only 0.77%, but that's just this week. And it was a very low volatility week. It'll be interesting to see week to week how things change, and I think it'll be a really like for me personally, it's going to be a very valuable learning experience to see week to week how this thing goes, because I haven't been, in finance. I mean, I don't know if I'm even in finance really, but like it'll be very valuable learning for me watching how this works from week to week and seeing how the compounding interest builds over time. It'll be very cool.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the things that we can't stress enough. Is it's very much so a case where volatility is going to be a huge win for us. We're pretty conservative with our setup and everything like that. Where, like I said, on average over that period that we were doing the back testing and everything, is about 7 to 12% is kind of roughly what it did without compounding each month. So it's very much so.
So what do you mean without compounding? Like what would that number be with compounding?
So with compounding, it goes from about 44% on the month to closer to about 80% on the month. Looking at just like 7% each month. Because you have to remember, like if you're not accounting for compounding, you're just removing everything out. It basically just remains the same each month. So it's not as high of a return, so to speak. Compounding though, you're adding everything back in. So like an example of such is, say you start with $10,000 or whatever it is, and then you do 7%. That's $700. Assuming like my brain has not just gone flatlining on me here. If you are not compounding that, that means that you're removing the $700 at the end of that month, and you're saying,
Right.
okay, now we're starting again with $10,000, and then you do that every single month. That's kind of what the bot originally did and what we were testing on.
I got you.
With compounding, though, it's much higher than that because you're adding everything back in, and it's just accruing every single month on top of it. But it basically is a situation where we want to make sure that we're kind of looking at this again, not as like a day in, day out kind of thing. While we are going to be providing the updates on a weekly basis here, a lot of this was more of just to kind of hold people over until we get the visuals up and running on the website and everything, and then we'll probably do this every 2 weeks, I would think, or maybe every month. And the reason for that is everything will be visible to those that have the NFTs already, and you'll be able to see all of that data in there where it's all going to be calculated out for you. I won't have to explain anything. You'll be able to see everything. You can go through all the data yourself if you really want to do the deep dive, or you can just say, oh, cool, we're at like 9.5% this month. Last month we were at 12%. The month before that we were at 14%, and just kind of see how things are going. But the best way to kind of look at this process is this is not going to be something that is going to be a day in, day out kind of thing to check. You want to, check it like maybe once a month. You check it every other week, something like that. The reason why I cannot stress that enough is I'm sure everybody has done this at some point in time when they got into trading crypto, like right in the beginning or when they first started trading stocks or anything like that. You buy something, it goes up 12 cents, you sell it immediately, and you're like, oh, I made 12 cents. And then, and then it goes up another $5 after that. And you're hating yourself for selling early. And it's like, it's very much so a situation with what we're looking to do with the bot here is time in the market versus timing the market, and that's one of those things I'm sure people have heard that 1,000 times over, where it's like there's always a better way of doing things, and the better way of doing things is being in the market, letting the bot do its trading, letting the bot do its thing, us making some minor adjustments here or there, versus just trying to constantly go in and out or constantly check things over and over and over again. And what we're looking to do here is, worst case scenario, if you were to be in the standard stock market, you're expecting your returns to double, or your initial to double over 7 to 10 years. We're looking at this being a situation where we're talking like full-blown retirement for NFT holders within 7 to 10 years. Worst case scenario. And again, that is a situation where, like, if the market never does anything, it continues, and we do 3 to 5% every single month for the next 7 to 10 years, we would still be at the point where we'd hit stage 3 anyways. So
Nice.
That's kind of the way that we look at this, is that, I went and did the math on it. We don't think it'll ever be close to that. Again, the average that we've seen in the worst periods of times, or like worst quarters, was about 7 to 12% per month. So it is very much so a case where, this month we could do, I don't know, like 4% or something like that. And, the following month, again, we could do 16 like we did last time. That averaged out to about 11%. It's dependent on a couple of different variables. But again, through our back testing and everything that we've done over the last 3 years of back testing, testing out our process and our system here, it's a case where, it went through all of those without any kind of issue in any way, shape, or form. And then it came out on top after 3 years. It went from $10,000 in our back testing to $400,000, again, without compounding. So it's just a crazy stretch of returns that it's able to have, even just sitting in there from 3 years. So that's definitely something that I want people to kind of just, take to heart, is that this is not going to be a, hey, next week we're stage 3 kind of thing. That will not happen. I want to just stem any hopes and dreams of that right away.
Don't be spreading FUD. Don't be spreading FUD.
Well, again, people can ask questions. I am not a person to ever have the idea that, you're not allowed to be negative about something or ask questions or anything like that. My opinion has always been of the case that if you have a viable question to ask, and you're not misconstruing what people have said or lying about, what the teams have come out and said, I have no issue with answering questions. Doesn't matter how hard they are. Doesn't matter if I'm wrong. And I want to make that clear because we've had some instances where people have asked questions, that are fairly tough, and we've done our best to answer them, or we've made changes based on those tough questions. And
Hmm.
that is definitely something I want to put forth. There is that this is not a dictatorship on our side over here where we're going to slam the hammer down and ban people left and left, right, and center. So please, nobody worry about that in any way, shape, or form. I know Oliver's nodding with me there as well. We want people to ask questions. We want you guys to you know to to feel like you're a part of what we're doing here. And so I just wanted to say that as well, because I had a couple of people that have messaged me and direct messaged me and PM me and been like, hey, I don't want it to seem like I'm fudding this or anything, but I have a couple of questions. I'm worried about how this works and stuff like that. And so I don't want anybody to panic and think that they can't talk to us about this kind of stuff. I want to be as clear as I possibly can here. You're not going to get in trouble for asking us questions. The only time you're ever going to get in trouble, at least for me, is if you're just flat out lying about things that myself, my team says, or the one team says. That's not something I will ever accept. And again, I'll warn people first before I do anything else. But it's very much so a case for me. That is the most important thing to me, is that if you have questions, please ask them. I
Hmm.
don't want anyone to feel like they can't do that. So
Yeah,
little
absolutely.
bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to say that we've had people that have asked questions, provided suggestions, things like that, and I just didn't want anybody to feel like they couldn't reach out and talk to us about stuff. We're not above anybody else's reach. We're here for you guys, and we're here to to make these projects amazing and make some money for you guys as well too. Let's be fair. That's what we're all here for. So
Yep,
yep.
absolutely. So you wanna check out these comments. Irish Viking says, "What's the overall average at the moment?" I think you were kind of touching on that. That you were
About
saying
seven
like,
to Historically, it's been about 7 to 12%. There are some months where it does better. Some months where it does worse, but that's usually about the range that we're kind of shooting for, is about that 7 to 12% range, and try and keep it consistently in there, because that just creates a very stable return. And again, that 7 to 12% was without compounding. So it's actually a little bit higher when we include compounding into that.
yeah, and I mean it's compounding daily overall, right? That's
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So, in that instance as well, too, the 7 to 12% that I'm talking about, that was just what it was doing month in and month out, when everything was basically reset back to fresh. No new funds were added. No funds were reinvested. That was basically the process that it kind of did. Is it averaged about 7 to 12%. So in terms of long term, it's actually going to be slightly higher than that. Or it'll be closer to probably about 8, 8.25, maybe 8.5, to about 13, maybe 14% is kind of the range it'll end up being with compounding every single day. So
awesome.
yeah.
Irish Viking is clarifying. He says, "I mean overall so far, not just monthly."
Yeah, so the initial bot that we had trading, which is kind of I guess we'll call like the little brother of this one that we have right now, so far did 22%. It's like 22.3%, give or take. And that is the first version or iteration of this bot. And that was over a 2 month period. It did 22.3%. And that was with about, I think it was, Oliver, was it like 10 days where it wasn't trading or something like that, or 12 days, something
I
like
think I
that?
think it was 12. It only ran for 18 days that second month. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a situation where it was about um, a month. We'll just say, rounding, it was about a month and a half where it did 22%. And that is the first version of the bot. We're on version 2, which is a little more hands off, where we aren't going to have to monitor it all the time, and it's been running flawlessly. Trades have been going through without any kind of issue, with the exception of the first 3 days where we didn't realize that the amount was too low, and we came back and checked it, and it was like, oh yeah, you didn't enter a couple of these trades because the amount that you were trying to trade was not enough. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
bumped that up a little bit, to about 2K, and that's what we've been trading with for over the last 7 days, roughly. Um,
Cool.
and yeah, it's been doing pretty good. We're
Cool.
we're happy with the way that it's working so far, and we want to just kind of see how it handles a much more volatile week, because that'll really tell us what it can do. Because like if next week comes back and it's just crazy ups and downs, you know, I would love to see, a 5 or 6% week. That would be insane.
That
I'd
would be
love that.
that would be fun. Yeah.
And that's the big difference between the version 1 bot and the version 2 bot, is that version 1 bot got stuck in trades, where it just had to sit until the volatility started back up again. And that's what happened with that 5 day period, is that really it placed most of its trades within like the first day or two, and then it was stuck in the trade for 3 more days after that, where it couldn't
Right.
get out. And with this bot, it doesn't have that same issue. So it's an instance there where it's like, hey, it's gonna knock it out of the park once we start hitting that volatility. Like it, when I said that this one is like the big brother to the little brother, that's not even like remotely accurate. We're
We should
talking
have just
about
started. We should have just started with that.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah. It's like talking about a molehill and Everest. I mean,
Sweet.
this bot has done some absolutely disgusting things, um, in the test environment and back testing and everything. Comparatively speaking, I mean, I think we talked about this and it may have gone out there, but just for the sake of humor and laughing, the best it ever did was 20 quintillion over a 3 year period, and that's quintillion with a Q.
Yeah.
So if you want to look that up, that's 19 zeros. In case you're curious, I did that over 3 years with $10,000 as the starting amount.
we
So
could pretty much buy the entire world with that. So
I think like 3 times over or something. So I mean, it's just it's disgusting. The new numbers that we have for it are based on it doing about 20% of its top end capacity. So the numbers that we're providing and presenting, that 7 to 12%, that is at roughly 20% capacity, from
wow.
what we've seen. Meaning it could, in theory, if everything lines up perfectly, and I'm not saying it will, but if everything lines up perfectly, it could do 80% more on top of that. So it
Wow.
would be a situation where it would go from like 7 to 12% all the way up to, I think, like 42% or something like that on the month,
That would be
which is
fun. That would be fun.
it's just insane. Yeah. So
Wow.
it, it's very much so a case where we're trying to be extremely conservative here and just saying that, like, hey, 7 to 12%, that's kind of where we're looking at this right now. We want to get it lined up, get it doing its thing, and then let it sit and do its kind of its own stuff, and just kind of make sure nothing explodes on it, and just kind of keep it oiled up, keep it gassed up, and keep it good to go, kind of thing. So,
Yep.
yep.
So Mystic Dragon says, I think you may have touched on this in the past. As we gain progress over time, will a very small portion of assets ever be deployed to some high risk, high return assets?
No. That's just kind of keeping it short. The bot in this instance here is meant strictly to trade between like Bitcoin and Ethereum. The test environment that we're using and that we've built based on TradingView, allows us to test some of those other riskier assets. So far, I will say they have not had any kind of positive returns. We get to the point where like we tested with XRP is like a great example of this. If we were in a short during that period of time where XRP won their lawsuit against the SEC, we would have been liquidated. It just that was just
Damn.
one of the things that we had happen within the test environment. We were trying that stuff out, seeing if we could use other assets. As of right now, it's just not a good idea.
Mm,
That doesn't mean that we won't expand into something like that at some point in time down the road if we can find a better way to do it. But Bitcoin and Ethereum, are pretty much here to stay. They're not going to be going anywhere, which is why we're sticking with just those two. Like we're not even at this point in time considering like BNB as
yeah.
an example. So it's like, while I brought that up about XRP, like we're not even considering like what we would consider, secondary blue chip tokens. So like, like AVAX, Matic, BNB, XRP, Dogecoin. None of that stuff would ever be traded with this specific bot. We might do something else at some point in time, but it would never be with this one. It'd be a
Yeah.
totally separate thing.
Yeah. Chappie is saying once a month is enough for official updates. Need time to process data as long as teams stay in contact daily. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll probably do, if Moongod is all right with it, we'll probably do weekly for a little while, and then we'll just see how it goes. If once a month is plenty for you guys, and when you just know that we're always in the Discord to answer questions. And I like whenever I answer people's questions regarding the Prisma One bot, I'm usually just telling you guys what I've heard from Moongod. So I'm never going to rely on my own intelligence to be answering you guys. I'm usually going to be referring to something I heard from Moongod or from Yanni or Lucky or something like that. So, but I am
Yeah.
in their chats, so I see things that you guys don't see sometimes.
And I feel like we can definitely consider transitioning to like every other week, once a month kind of thing when the visuals are out, on the website. Because then that way we're not doing effectively what we're doing right here, which is telling you guys how everything's going, and going over, the returns so far and just kind of going from there. We can actually, have you guys just see them, and then we can just do like, again, like maybe every other week or once a month where we just do, hey, what kind of questions do you guys have?
Mm,
But until that point in time, we want to make sure that you guys don't feel like you're in the dark, because I know it's been, you know, a situation where sometimes it kind of feels like, hey, we're here. And then other times it's like, hey, I haven't talked to Moongod in like 3 days. What's going on with him? So I don't want anybody to panic in that aspect. So early on, yeah, I agree with Oliver. We're going to do this every single week. And then as those visuals are ready and you guys are able to see things, we might kind of slowly start to taper that back if you guys are okay with that.
hmm Looks like there's a question for you here. Chappie says, what do you think about the corporate giants Bitcoin spot ETFs? Do you think they may manipulate the market? Do you have plans for that?
So what I will say in that regard, market's already currently being manipulated anyways. To say anything short of that is kind of just a joke. There are very much so CEXs that people were a part of. Um, Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The three letter CEX that imploded upon itself. Was doing some shisty and some shady things with liquidating people's assets or liquidating their longs and short positions by adjusting things within their market. So yeah, it very much so is a case where some of this stuff is manipulated already. But what I will say on the opposite side of that is, as some of this larger forms of assets come into play here, it's a positive for us because it's bringing more liquidity into the market. So what that means for the NFT long term is kind of something that I brought up in our last AMA. Whereas like right now, a lot of liquidity has gone out of the market because a lot of people are not really trading, or they're holding on to what they have, or they're very minimalistically accumulating things, but people aren't really buying and selling as much as they were during the last bull run. But as some of that institutional funding comes into play, one of the positives with that is we're going to see that liquidity level skyrocket and go back up as people are starting to trade more. More transactions are happening, more buys and sells are occurring. It just ends up being much more positive for us in the long run as well. And that means that if we go from, let's say, during the last bull run, crypto as a whole was doing $100 billion a day in volume. If we go from $100 billion a day in volume to $500 billion a day in volume, that's that's just better for us. That means that our bot can function much, much longer without us having to potentially pull back on those returns. We effectively, as crazy as it sounds to say this, remain a much smaller fish in a much, much larger pond, which is actually great for us. One of the reasons why our bot can be so effective and so efficient is it's not moving the market. And as more large assets come into the market as well, the likelihood of us moving the market as we get to a 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 50 million, $100 million range is much, much lower. So it means that we can effectively continue to trade at the same level potentially. So we could see some much, much higher positives come with some of these big banks or big corporations, these ETFs moving into the crypto market as well. I also think, be it positive or negative, we might see some regulation within the next few years here, which could be extremely, extremely beneficial. I think if governments took the position of, say, like USDC, Circle, even some of the things that Binance does, and the processes that they have implemented to try and kind of prevent scammers and things like that. I very much so think that it could be some positive changes in the market there. I think the biggest issue that we might face is if they just continue to allow things to be as ambiguous as they are right now, which isn't necessarily great for the market long term. But it allows us as a whole to circle back around and answer your question. It allows us to, as a whole, to navigate the market much, much easier if those end up coming in. So I kind of see them as net positives for us. It'll also open up a lot more possibilities for us to be able to, take full advantage of, I'm going to say bank liquidity to a certain extent. Because one of the biggest issues that banks have right now is that it's damn near impossible for them to transact or move large amounts of funds in any reasonable way. So like trying to move $200,000 in crypto is like snap of a finger, no problem whatsoever. But trying to move $200,000, even from just one bank to buying a house, is a whole process. Trust me, as someone who's bought a house, it's a fucking nightmare to move that money around.
Yep.
And mine wasn't even that much. Like we our down payment was about $80,000 on our house is what we put down. But it was a situation where like I had to go through so much red tape just to do that. It was absolutely ridiculous. But with crypto, we just don't run into that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited to see some of these corporate giants kind of moving into the market, as long as they aren't going to strangle out the DeFi space as a whole. I think we're going to be in a much, much better place. I think we really have to kind of, also move away, from projects and people that have a known history of scamming others. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we kind of face, is that for every, one project like the one team or Prisma or any of the other partners that we have that are out there, like Collective Finance or Ready Set Go, any of the projects that you see like this, there's 50 others that are just stealing people's money. So that's one of those things to kind of, tangent. I hope that we can kind of fix, and I hope some of these bigger corporations coming in help fix some of those issues without, stomping on us, so to speak.
Yeah. That's well said. It will be very interesting to see how everything goes. I know, like, I mean, I don't know, just to go back over like some numbers. I was playing around with the compound calculator, and you were telling me that like a reasonable daily return was like 0.2%, or 0.25%, and
Yeah.
and I was entering that into the calculator, and all I did was put $1,000 in there. And let me tell you, within 10 years of compounding, I was good. I was retired. I was a multi-millionaire. After 12 years, I had more money than I could spend probably in my life. So this
Yeah, I think it
calculating
was like, what
is
was it,
no
like
joke.
$56 million is what you had or something like that?
By year, no, it was by year 12 I had 56 million, and if I let it compound for one more year, year 13 I had like 250 million.
That is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
But I
from a
mean,
thousand bucks.
that's one of the crazy parts about compounding. That's one of the reasons why we're looking to do it, in this way here, is that, you know, yes, we're looking at a very long period of compounding straight out the gate. Just, there's no questions about that. But it is a situation where, you know, I don't know anywhere else where you could say like, hey, in 13 years if we're doing this, what are we kind of looking at here? And it's very much so a case where in 13 years on traditional markets, you'd be happy to have doubled your initial investment, and then some. You'd be
Yeah,
hoping that you'd almost have doubled it twice. Here we're looking at people's potential retirement. Is that's our goal. By the time we hit like year 7 and stuff like that, and again, I know we talked about like, hey, when a stage 3 stuff like that, but like, years 7 to 10, we're talking about, this is like, we're getting to the point where, you know, you could blow $10,000 in a day and that wouldn't dent you.
yeah,
That is the
yeah.
end goal for this, is that, um, I know that's speaking a little bit like, hey, Matt's being a little zealous here, but it's one of those things where it's just kind of, as we are kind of looking to do this in the market and kind of, make some of the long-term gains, come into fruition here, that's definitely what we're looking to be the case, is that, you know, my goal is anyone who has just one NFT should be able to retire within that time frame.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I know it sounds very zealous to say that. I'd like for that to be the case. I hope nothing ever goes wrong, and that everything that we hope here is going to be accomplished within that time frame. And that is what I'm hoping will be the case. I'm hoping this will be a situation where we'll have everything in place to allow people to have, not only themselves, never have to worry about another dollar the rest of the day, of their lives, but their kids as well, their grandkids. So, and this is really what I'm looking to kind of do within the crypto space here. And I'm glad we get to do it together, Oliver.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure.
absolutely, absolutely, man. I couldn't have asked for better partners than you guys, and like PTC, and we're building something amazing here. And I really think like we're a small projects now, but I think we're gonna like make some pretty big waves with what we're doing. Because I know I can think of two projects that are doing like kind of what we're doing, but it's kind of different. Warfi and Warhaven, but it's still not it's not exactly like what we're doing. I don't know the details of what they do, but I know that they kind of have bot trading and compounding and stuff as well. But this not many people are doing this, so we're like on the cutting edge here.
Yeah, and what I will say, just to kind of follow that up as well too, is I'll give them a lot of credit, more so than anything else. Is they really have carved out a path and a process here that is successful, is what I'll say. And again, I'm not going to bash any other project that's doing things the right way. Like, I mean, I listened to one of their AMAs a little while ago, and it was very much so a case where they said a lot of the same things that we did in terms of safety and security and making sure that going forward, people don't
Hmm.
feel like everything is at risk or constantly like having to bite their nails and bite their fingers down to the bone to kind of
Yeah,
hope that they're not having their money stolen away from them. So that, I mean, that's
yeah,
very much so the same kind of mentality that we have on our side, where it's like we want to be safe and secure. We want to make some money, and we want to make some money for our holders as well too. So it's very much so, you know part of the reason why we've made a lot of the changes that we did on this side, where a lot of projects, they'll just, you know they'll take a huge chunk of the initial and then kind of fade away into nothing here. And it's like, at this point in time, we've fully committed into this, and we are not going to be paid anything until all of our holders are paid something. So that's
yep,
that's really kind of one of the big things that I say, differentiates us from a lot of the other NFT projects that are out there, a lot of other projects that are doing revenue sharing or anything like that, is that our holders come first. Their safety of the funds and assets that they've provided comes first as well. So
Yeah,
I just wanted to
it's
kind of again touch base on that, and I love hearing other projects that are doing the same thing in that aspect. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that defines us more so than even how well our bot does. Is that before we make any change or update, we go through an absolutely brutal review process, where even having a 1% failure rate is not acceptable for us. So I just
mhm.
wanted to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, what was I gonna add to it? Um, I totally forgot.
Uh,
Totally forgot. Anyways, Mr.
well,
Yan is. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Mr. Yan's got a question there for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I've mentioned this in chat, but curious to get more thoughts on it. Trading is always risky no matter what measures are in place. Do you think you'll ever create a riskless stream of revenue to help support and accelerate the trading funds? Um, so the long um, so long and short of it, to be brutally honest, the answer is no. It's just not possible to create something like that. There is never going to be a 100% risk-free situation. In terms of minimizing risk, that's absolutely something we're doing on our side as much as we possibly can. Like I said, when we were discussing, setups for the bot and things like that, 1% risk is above and beyond what we consider acceptable. Like we're talking, 100,000 fold above what we consider acceptable here. So in terms of just a risk-less or a risk-free environment, that's not really possible. I'd love for that to be the case. It's just kind of not something that's ever going to be doable. As for subscription fee for users and whether or not they'd like to be able to kind of come and go as they please, I don't believe that's something we'll do anytime soon for the end user. We are looking into a couple of options for other projects. The problem that we have with our current setup is with the way that our bot trades, you have to have at a minimum of about $2,000 in order for it to even viably trade.
We
And that
we had talked about, since you can do sub accounts with the bot, like in year two when people start getting their payouts, because I heard people saying that they wanted to reinvest that year two income, and to speed things up, we couldn't really do that because literally everybody would have to agree to do that, because it would be, I don't want to speak for you, Moon God, but I think it'd be impossible to keep track of that if only some people reinvested and some didn't.
yeah,
um
there's no way.
so yeah, it would have to be everybody would have to reinvest, or nobody. But the way around that is we could open up another sub account and sell NFTs for that, and it could be like the Prisma one, you know, two or
Two
something.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And we could, I mean,
Um,
the Lucky, I think, was calling it like the Millionaire Club or something. He had some cool name for it. But like you could take your, year two profits, and you could buy that NFT or multiple of those NFTs, and that money could start the whole compounding process over again. And it would kind of be like you were reinvesting that money. It would just be in a separate NFT.
yeah.
So,
And again, there are definitely options we can go that route with it, but I will just outright say it right now. We don't have anything in place for that. Again, that's not because we are saying no, we're not going to do that. That's just saying that's kind of 2 years out. So, yep.
Chappie's right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Step by step, please. Absolutely. And Chappie's also saying to you, Moon God, with your attitude towards this project, you will be very successful. Never change that. I can tell you from the chats that I have had with Moon God, is that he definitely is a principle centered person like myself, and his principles do not waver at all. So we're just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and it's just uh, this thing. Honestly, uh, I don't have a cold wallet, but this is making me seriously consider getting one, because that's the only thing I can think of that could put, my future profits in peril, is if I click a bad link or something one day, you know. Other than that.
Yeah, I have a for the record, and I would recommend this for anybody. I have a totally separate wallet that I use specifically for Prisma. Like I have one wallet which I just call like my degen wallet, which is literally just like, hey, this is my fuck off money,
Mhm.
where I'm just gonna throw stuff in here and do stupid things and try stuff, see what happens. And then I have a wallet that is strictly set aside for Prisma, which does not touch anything else, does not connect to anything else. It's effectively a hot cold wallet.
Hmm.
So
That's a good idea.
um,
I
I
might have
mean,
to do
that's
that.
not financial advice or anything like that, but I literally just have like a second separate wallet that's totally set up that never sees the light of day for anything else.
Yeah,
So,
because Tiki's in the audience. He actually clicked a bad link a few days ago, so it's like it can happen. Like, I mean, I don't want to speak anything negative, but I'm just saying, like, don't click any links that you're not like totally 100% sure on. Just be careful out there.
so Mr. Yan, to answer your question about funds being added to the the NFT and things like that, it'll probably start next week. So the first week we had $1,000 in there originally that we were starting to test with, and for about 3 days we were kind of wondering why it was missing some of those trades, and then we realized that we didn't actually have enough funds in there. So we added another 1,000 to bring it up to a total of 2,000, which is what we let everybody know about. Um, and at that point in time, it has been trading with the exception of an additional 4 days that we brought the bot down to do some maintenance and small updates. And it has been running the last 3 days without any kind of issue at all. So we'd like to give it another week before we start bringing the NFT funds in there and start testing that on the sub account. That'll actually start with about $2,000 because we want to make sure that as the trades are being placed on the primary account, which is the ITF, for the Prisma V2 token. As it is trading those funds, we want to make sure that the trades are following one to one in the sub account as well. And we don't want to risk putting a large amount in there. Now, if we have to, and it would be a situation where we'd run two separate iterations of the bot, we'd do that. But right now, with the way that the system works, we can effectively trade both accounts at the same time, running the same bot at the same time. So it would still work in the two different accounts, but it should all work under one setup, which is kind of awesome. Um, we've got to test that out, make sure that all works properly, because entering, 10 seconds after another trade has already been placed may not result in the same returns or the same, outcome. So we got to make sure that we're being careful about that as well. You know, time is crazy in that aspect. 10 seconds is a lifetime, when it could go from $21,000 to $22,000 in the blink of an eye. You never know.
Hmm. With this new setup, like there shouldn't be any downtime, right? I think you were saying.
Yeah, correct. There shouldn't be any downtime that we foresee. The only downtime that I could see that we'd have would be when we add the funds to the NFT sub account. Just to kind of make sure we're not in a trade when we're trying to start up the sub account and get that one trading at the same time, because we don't want anything weird to happen there. But that wouldn't be like a, hey, we're going to be down for a week or anything like that. That would be like, hey, we'll probably be down for like maybe an hour, or maybe worst case scenario like a day. So yeah.
Hmm. Man, Irish Viking is telling us a horror story. He got something. I remember something happened to his wallet like a week ago as well, and he says something just happened again. Ugh, man, I'm sorry to hear it. Well, we've been talking for over an hour, guys. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. It's been a while since I've seen a crowd that big, so appreciate y'all for joining us. I'll let Moongod have the last word if he wants to add anything. But yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Moongod, for joining me. And And yeah, I'll let you wrap this up.
Yeah. So real quick, just to re-answer Mr. Yan's question there, we aren't looking to do that option with end users as of yet. So like not like you guys. We are looking for options of doing that with other projects. There are a couple of that have spoken with us about doing, anywhere from like 5 to 10 to $20,000 in the bot, and that would be something where we could potentially have some additional revenue coming that direction. But that's not really associated with the Prisma One NFT. That'd be more with like Prisma V2, that would have that happen. Just like a heads up, we're kind of different aspect at that point in time, just to let you kind of know. But yes, we are looking at some of those options, and that test point that we have with some of those other projects that are wanting to, have some funds just kind of sit with us. That would be that test ramp for potential end users having that option as well. So yeah, just food for thought. We're working on a couple of things, but nothing, promised there. If I can't see my NFTs in the hot wallet, how can I transfer to a cold wallet? Any tutorial will help. I believe Yanni has helped out quite a few people with that, Oliver. Am I
Yeah.
right in thinking that?
Yeah, because it's MetaMask. I don't know anything about MetaMask. I have Trust Wallet myself. So
Yeah,
yeah, if you want to message Yanni or Lucky, I know they can. Here, yeah, Yanni's even answering them right now.
sweet. That man is a legend.
Yep,
Instantly just knows.
yep, yep.
All right. Well, I think we can probably wrap it up there. We'll see everybody next Tuesday. And any questions, as always, comment section of the YouTube video. You can always come into the Discord and ask us questions there, either the One Team Discord or the Prism Discord. Either or, not a big deal. But yeah,
Yep,
appreciate
yep.
it, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See ya.